Welcome back. I'm talking with Pat Beall, the Palm Beach Post lead reporter, on how the opioid crisis in Florida would ultimately lead to a heroin epidemic in Florida and other states. We thank you again for being with us on this groundbreaking series and to talk to our viewers. A name many of you will be familiar with, Rudy Giuliani, crossed the pages and crossed the eyes of your reporters. Talk about that and also the needle exchange, two components that you think are pivotal and important as part of the storytelling here.
Well, I think Rudy Giuliani was one of the more surprising characters that we came across. Rudy Giuliani, shortly after he left as mayor of New York City, had been hired by Purdue to do lobbying, and he proceeded to lobby DEA on behalf of Purdue and OxyContin issues. And at about that time, the DEA, in what it called an unprecedented coalition, issued a statement that said, please don't take opioids away from people who may be in pain, and specifically mentioned OxyContin. And some of the associations that were on that same statement with the DEA included associations that were in fact funded by Purdue or backed by Purdue. So the DEA was very strange. But the other thing that happened that we were surprised by was at about that same time, one of Giuliani's firms had partnered on a DOJ contract to review the operations of a federal drug enforcement task force. One of their challenges was, in fact, investigating OxyContin diversion. And cases started going down after that. And I would like to point out that we did reach out to Mr. Giuliani. We sent him in writing very specific questions about that. We did not hear back from Mr. Giuliani. But there was a lot of pressure being put on the DEA.
Talk about the needle exchange. We sit here in 2018 and we're trying to climb out of a crisis. Talk about that in perspective as we move forward.
Well, you know, we were talking a few moments ago about the science of addiction and what we do and what we do not know. You know, Florida actually approved a pilot needle exchange program a few years ago in Miami, but it has never been expanded. And what's important about a needle exchange, and there's a lot of hesitation and I think misunderstanding about it, is that a needle exchange stops the spread of secondary epidemics that go along with injection drug use, and specifically hepatitis C and HIV transmission. And it also offers a place for drug users to come and get information about possible treatment as well. And the needle exchange is intriguing because you know, our Vice President, Mike Pence, had actually approved one in a county in Indiana at one point. This is not like a conservative political issue at all. And Florida, although we are certainly among the hardest hit, along with Indiana, you know, we really don't seem to be giving it that kind of serious consideration. It just got shot down again in this past legislative session.
One of the things you'll continue to look at. In our remaining moments, talk about the genesis of the thinking in the Post newsroom that said we need to tackle this in a big way. Talk about the challenges you face, the kind of resources you put into this really multi-year effort that ultimately led to this series that's getting national attention and acclaim right now, I might add.
Well, the Palm Beach Post, as far back as 2015, I think we knew that we were going to have to cover heroin and opioid addiction in our community in a very focused way. And I think this is part of, you know, what started many years ago, looking at sober home fraud, looking at abuse of individuals seeking help, looking at the individuals who are dying in our community of heroin-related overdoses. And this grew organically out of that, because at some point, you know, the question arises, how did all of this happen? How did we get here? It feels like it happened all at once, but it didn't happen all at once. And so we spent many months going through many documents and yeah, many documents and databases, and also traveling,
talking to the people, the human toll here, which was heartrending, the people who have suffered, those who've lost loved ones because of the epidemic. You really went nationwide in search of answers.
Yeah, we did. We wanted to talk to everybody who had been along, well, not everybody, but we wanted to retravel the Oxy Express, all of those Appalachian communities where we knew Florida pills had once flowed, and we wanted to see what happened to them once the pills went away.
Pat Beall, it's a series that reminds us why great newspapers exist. They exist to tell us about stories and cautionary tales that perhaps help us avoid these kind of mistakes in the future. I urge all of you, please, if you haven't already, How Florida Ignited the Heroin Epidemic, a Palm Beach Post series of special reports. It is must-reading if we're to avoid the mistakes that have created so much carnage, not only in our community, but nationwide. We thank you and your team in the Post for the reporting you've done.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being our guest, and we'll be back in just a moment.